there will be topics that we disagree on. I think we'll probably come to a conclusion, and ultimately he'll convince me or I'll convince him, it's for the good of New York. Ultimately, it's for the good of New York. I don't care about affiliations or parties or anything else. I want to see if this city could be unbelievable, if he could be a spectacular success, I'd be very happy.
Do you think you guys will meet more in the future, too?
Excuse?
Do you think you'll meet again in the future, throughout the administration?
I think we will. I think we will. I hope we do. I enjoyed the meeting. We had a great meeting. Please.
Mr. President, Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't. But she's out there campaigning, and you say things sometimes in a campaign.
Isn't that sort of?
She's a very capable person.
Isn't that a kind of label?
You really have to ask her about that. But no, I don't particularly. I think I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again. And I can say again, because New York was great. When I came down to Washington initially, the city was so hot. It was doing great. We were having some telltale signs of problems. We had a mayor that was not doing a great job, but still, it was moving along. And it went bad. It really went, pretty bad. And I think it's been at lower points, but it went pretty bad. I think he can bring it back. Now the question is, will he bring it back all the way? Will he bring it back greater than ever before, which is, I guarantee, that's his wish. I think he wants to make it greater than ever before. And if he can, we'll be out there cheering. I'll be cheering for him. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Do you think Islam is at war with the West?
I think Islam hates us. There's something there that there's a tremendous hatred there. There's a tremendous hatred. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us.
In Islam itself?
You're going to have to figure that out, okay? You'll get another Pulitzer, right? But you're going to have to figure that out. But there is a tremendous hatred. And we have to be very vigilant. We have to be very careful. And we can't allow people coming into this country who have this hatred of the United States.
I guess the question is...
And of people that are not Muslim.
I guess the question is there a war between the West and radical Islam, or is there a war between the West and Islam itself?
It's radical, but it's very hard to define. It's very hard to separate because you don't know who's who.
Because of what has not only happened in New York City in the recent election, but the infusion of vitamin B, so to speak, to the Muslim community since Zohran Mamdani's election. A lot of people are talking, a lot of cities, municipalities are flirting with Islam. Hedia, where do you want to begin? You want to talk about the history, the start points?
I think it's important for people to see the historical continuum. Because if we don't start there, then people think this is happening in a vacuum and think, oh, it's one Muslim person here and another Muslim person there, and they don't understand the ideological underpinnings of the movement of Islam. And I'd like to separate up first what we're talking about is Islam. We, as Christians, we love all people. So we're not talking about Muslims, we're talking about the ideology. Mm-hmm. So if you start back in what was Christendom. So all of the Middle East, North Africa, Europe, these are all Christian lands. Once the Islamic army advances outside of Mecca, 632 about, it starts invading all of these Christian lands. By 732, almost that entire region that was Christendom is conquered.
Mm-hmm. They started in Mecca and Medina, and they took off and they got into Europe. Are you suggesting, Hedia, that Islam is a theocratic, geopolitical ideology that has conquer and conquest in its mindset?
It's at the root of Islam. They've never denied that. It's a global expansionist doctrine.
Global expansionist doctrine, folks.
And they've never denied that. That's right. That's always been the mission. And so the average Muslim may not understand that because they don't know history or they don't even read the Quran. The average Muslim doesn't even read the Quran.
That's all right.
Because if you read it, it's in the scripture. So fast forward, we're at World War I. This ends the first phase of the Islamic conquest because they no longer militarily can defeat the West. So phase 2 begins. And bin Laden refers to this in his manifesto that this is now their attempt. Phase 2 is how they're going to reconquer the lands that were stolen and conquer more land until all the world is subdued into Islam.
Right.
That doctrine is no different for the Saudi government today as it was yesterday. What bin Laden was doing was just creating a militia. But that's the same doctrine that the Saudis believe, that the Qataris believe, the UAE believes, because people think that because they're Western allies on paper, that they don't have that doctrine. But they do. Why did Christendom get conquered for 300 years before they cried out?
Yeah.
We're just seeing, that's why I think the historical perspective is important, because it took 300 years until Christendom decided they were going to respond. And we're doing the same thing over again. People who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
Right.
And the question becomes for us here in the United States, 42 Muslim Americans were elected to office in this cycle.
This cycle being a couple weeks ago.
42
Muslims were elected to office in the United States several weeks ago.
From everything from state, local school boards, city councils, state representatives, and federal. And then that number is added to the 230 that already existed. So there's 280 Muslim American officials in total.
To add another number, in some way, shape, or form, Trump's administration is adding also Muslims into places of power.
Yes. So he recently put up for nomination Amir Ghalib, the mayor of Hamtramck, who is referred to as the mayor of America's first Sharia city.
Where's this place?
It's in a little part of Michigan, but they have an all-Muslim city council, and they allow animal sacrifices in people's backyards. So there's, the blood of goats and lambs for the Islamic holidays running down the streets. People complain they find carcasses in the trash cans. And people are complaining that the call to prayer is played anywhere between 3:30 and 5:30 a.m., but 5 times a day.
But that's okay because they control the city council.
Yes. And there's a viral video going around of somebody complaining, and they basically just shut her down.
In Battleground, Michigan, mayor of only Muslim-run U.S. city endorses. Donald Trump took to Truth Social to repost an endorsement post by Amir Ghalib, the mayor of the only city in the United States with an all-Muslim government. Ghalib leads the city of Hamtramck in Michigan. Former President Donald Trump told Breitbart News exclusively that he is excited that Amir Ghalib, the Muslim Democrat mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, has endorsed his campaign for president against Vice President Kamala Harris. I was very impressed with him, and he was a very big fan of the Trump administration because he saw no wars outside of defeating ISIS. But I inherited that. But there were no wars, Trump told Breitbart News in an exclusive interview Sunday afternoon. There was no October 7th. There was no Russian attack on Ukraine. He sees that, and he told me he saw a world that was at peace. Now we have a world that's going to end up in World War III, and I can stop that. I'm the only one that's going to stop that. Trump, in a nearly hour-long phone interview Sunday, told Breitbart News he is very open to going to Hamtramck for a campaign event and to meet with leaders of the Arab American community who are upset with the failures of Harris's and President Joe Biden's administration.
Wow.
But yeah, I think if for us as Americans, it's important, especially as Christians, in our witness to make sure that we know it is not the same God, so that we can witness properly to Muslims.
Yeah. So the point she's making clearly is that the God of Islam is not the God of the Bible.
Exactly.
The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I got to see a copy of. Bin Laden had written the devotion, call it a word of encouragement, to the 9/11 terrorists. That morning that they had gotten up, that day on September 11th, they read, all of them read, wherever they were at, they all read that same thing from bin Laden. And the investigations by the FBI post 9/11, almost all of them, if not all of them, before they took their baths and shaved their bodies, they went out with hookers and
partied their tails off. Yes.
Yes, that's a mild way of putting it. But yeah, wow.
And people, again, that goes back to Mamdani's wife in her clothes. That people, Americans, don't understand that kind of duplicity. Me and my former Muslim-believing friends, like we have a small group of us, one of the greatest liberties in Christ is we no longer live in that duplicity.
Yeah.
We had one life to our parents,
Yeah.
one life to our friends,
Right.
one life to our coworkers. Sometimes we couldn't even keep track of all the lies. I'm just thinking, imagining a map with the little plastic tanks on it.
Exactly. You take out the strongest first,
New
and
York.
the rest fall.
Yes.
So it's interesting. Who am I reading here? What is this? It's a mosque in Bronx. Quote, "I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. No more living in the shadows." So this is...
A quote from Mamdani.
Yeah, I think it is. November 4th, victory speech. "I am young and I am a Muslim. I refuse to apologize for being a Muslim. And no more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election." So, good for him. Good for him. Good for him, because he's so committed as a Muslim. He is announcing out loud,
He's announcing
"I'm a
his
Muslim, and everything about this city is going to go Muslim." And by the way, some are speculating that this December in New York City at the Rockefeller Center will be the last Christmas. You know, that's a huge tradition.
Oh, right.
Will be the last Christmas in New York for as long as Mamdani is the mayor. That said, good for him. He's doing what the Christian is not doing. Can you imagine? "I am young, I'm a Christian, and I refuse to apologize for being a Christian."
Can you imagine? People would lose their minds.
Can
People
you
would lose their
imagine?
minds.
We should,
Christian
you know what?
fascists.
You know how Babylon Bee does their amazing stuff? We should maybe invent something like that, where we take some statement by somebody
Right.
that the whole nation is going to be brought to Islam. We should change it and say the whole nation is going to be brought to Christianity, and do some fake news and then reveal later. And maybe we could
How
do...
hostile people would get.
Oh, just
They
to
would
see.
lose their minds.
They would lose their minds completely. So sorry.
So you want to go to Idaho?
Exactly. From Texas to Idaho, what's going on?
So the peace agreement. We didn't talk about the Israeli peace agreement.
okay.
So the peace agreement, as Trump was doing his Arab tour, there were a number of deals. We didn't know all the details. But once the peace agreement came out, which we brought Qatar to the table, that was one of the major negotiators, Qatar and Turkey, it is revealed that Qatar, part of their aid package, their bonus, was a military installation inside our military base in Idaho.
So
they get their own facility to train.
We'll press this more in a second. Let me pretend. So, why was Qatar at the table?
Well, because they needed to supposedly because they were going to help push Hamas.
Why would Qatar have any influence to push Hamas?
Because they've been funding Hamas.
That's it. Yeah. She fell for it.
Yeah, of course. It's like telling your child, "Shut up right now. We're going to negotiate."
So you fund terrorism, Qatar.
Create the problem and then bring the solution.
There's an Islamic word for this, but this is a tactic. So Qatar, we're going to fund Hamas, create a problem, and then President Trump and the team comes. They invite us in on the peace talks, and we're the ones actually that are guilty for funding all this stuff. The blood's on our hands, but no one's noticing. So let's push it. Hey, can we build a military unit on one of your existing military bases in, let me think, in Red, Idaho? Can we do that? Yes, for being such good players, yes, you can.
And this goes back to what I said about credibility. When we were trying to build moderate networks, they say, you have no credibility. You can't bring people to the table. So diplomatically, historically, that's what we always do, is we go to the big bully in the room and say, what could we give you to stop fighting? But they don't understand the tactics of their enemy, that they will take your concessions and bury you with them.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
we just don't understand our enemy. So we allow them to create this military installation to bring dozens of Qatari families, soldiers, and then what happens? Besides just the base, they have to build a mosque. They have to build a halal
on
market.
the base.
On the base, or around.
Or close by.
Or close by to establish their families.
But then religiously, that is an Islamic footprint of dominance we own this area.
Exactly. Because as far as I know, I don't think Idaho's on this map. Right.
It's not on the map.
Idaho has not yet been conquered.
It's going to be this, in fact, the updated map, this isn't 2 years old. So
Yeah. So
the updated map will have Idaho as fallen.
We will not be scolded by a dumb bastard in the White House.
Donald Trump's nominee to be second in command at the United Nations has a long history of making anti-Muslim comments and promoting conspiracy theories that falsely suggested former President Barack Obama was a secret Muslim born in Kenya.
It is my honor to appear before you today as President Trump's nominee to represent the United States as the Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations.
Tammy Bruce, currently top spokesperson at the State Department, but before that she was a conservative radio host, blogger, and Fox News contributor. She repeatedly questioned the loyalty of American Muslims after 9/11, writing that Muslim leaders needed to, quote, go out of their way to show us that they are American first and foremost. She also attacked the Empire State Building for lighting up for Ramadan in 2007, calling it pandering, and saying it sends a message to the, quote, enemy in one blog post. She also attacked one of the most important Muslim-majority countries that she would have to work with at the United Nations, saying in a 2007 blog post that the Saudis needed to be, quote, vanquished from this earth, and falsely implied that Barack Obama was a secret Muslim, made comments that suggested he was born in Kenya, called him a dumb bastard, and even speculated that he wanted the country harmed.
Even perhaps secretly wishes this nation to be harmed. I wouldn't put that past him.
She also attacked Obama for supporting the right to build the so-called Ground Zero Mosque, a proposed Islamic center in Lower Manhattan.
Muslims build mosques on sites of victories. This is our country. We are the most tolerant, most open country in the world. We will not be scolded by a dumb bastard in the White House. That he scolds the very people that literally took a literal chance on him. And this bastard punches us in the face.
Bruce just had her confirmation hearing, and she'll still need to be voted out of committee and be considered by the full Senate.
The UN has become bloated, unfocused, and ineffective in solving today's most pressing challenges to global peace and security.
And if confirmed, she'll have to work with some of those same Muslim-majority nations, including the Saudis, who she was so critical of. The White House is standing by Bruce and told us she was an effective spokesperson for the State Department because of her steadfast loyalty to President Trump, which makes her an effective voice for the president and administration's views on important issues.
In a world where power speaks louder than truth, and silence can be bought for billions, a warning that began with the murder of one journalist is now echoing across America. This is the story of what writer Karen Attiah calls the Saudification of America. In 2018, the world watched in shock as journalist Jamal Khashoggi walked into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul and never came out. The CIA later concluded that the Saudi crown prince ordered the assassination, a claim he denies. But the brutality of that moment revealed something deeper. What happens when a state decides that truth is disposable? 7 years later, Mohammed bin Salman returns to Washington, welcomed by Donald Trump. A leader who has long praised Saudi wealth, a leader whose family has deep financial ties to the kingdom, a leader who brushed off the murder as something that shouldn't get in the way of business. Their reunion was not surprising. It felt inevitable, because in the shadows of power, loyalty follows money. But Karen Attia's warning goes far beyond foreign policy. She says America is changing, quietly, from the inside. The Washington Post, the newspaper that once amplified Khashoggi's voice, is now, she says, erasing it. The global opinion section he wrote for? Dismantled. Writers who challenged repression? Pushed out. The fellowship created in his name? Allowed to fade away. Attia says new ideological red lines have been drawn. Write about markets, write about liberties, but don't challenge the powerful. She compares it to Saudi newsrooms where editors are told every morning what they may and may not publish. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia is reshaping global culture with staggering amounts of money. Buying soccer teams, funding golf leagues, paying influencers to sell a polished dream to the world. A dream Khashoggi warned was only an illusion, but illusions are easy to believe when billions are pouring in. Attia says something darker is happening in the U.S. too, a quiet shift toward censorship, lawsuits against media, threats against journalists, a growing fear of angering the powerful. The line between a free press and a controlled press is getting thinner. And then, the most symbolic detail of all, as Mohammed bin Salman returns to Washington, the Washington Post has not mentioned Khashoggi's name. Not once. Silence, Attia says, is how freedom dies. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but slowly, quietly, one erased story at a time. Khashoggi's murder was not just a tragedy, it was a warning about what happens when truth becomes inconvenient, when power goes unchallenged, and when the world looks away. Whether America listens to that warning is a question still hanging in the air.
Hi, everyone. I've always represented the common American man and woman as a member of the House of Representatives, which is why I've always been despised in Washington, D.C., and just never fit in. Americans are used by the political industrial complex of both political parties, election cycle after election cycle, in order to elect whichever side can convince Americans to hate the other side more. And the results are always the same. No matter which way the political pendulum swings, Republican or Democrat, nothing ever gets better for the common American man or woman. The debt goes higher, corporate and global interests remain Washington's sweethearts, American jobs continue to be replaced, whether it's by illegal labor or legal labor by visas or just shipped overseas. Small businesses continue to be swallowed by big corporations. Americans' hard-earned tax dollars always fund foreign wars, foreign aid, and foreign interest, and the spending power of the dollar continues to decline. The average American family can no longer survive on a single breadwinner's income, as both parents have to work in order to simply survive. And today, many in my children's generation feel hopeless for their future and don't think they will ever realize the American dream. And that breaks my heart. I ran for Congress in 2020 and have fought every single day believing that Make America Great Again meant America first. I have one of the most conservative voting records in Congress, defending the First Amendment, Second Amendment, unborn babies because I believe God creates life at conception, and I love to fight for the little guy. Strong, safe borders, I have fought hard for that. I've fought against COVID tyrannical insanity and mandated mass vaccinations, and I've never voted to fund foreign wars with your hard-earned tax dollars. However, with almost 1 year into our majority, the legislature has been mostly sidelined. We endured an 8-week shutdown, wrongly, resulting in the House not working for the entire time. America first should mean America first and only Americans first, with no other foreign country ever being attached to America first in our halls of government. Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for. However, while yes, hurtful, My heart remains filled with joy, my life is filled with happiness, and my true convictions remain unchanged, because my self-worth is not defined by a man, but instead by God, who created everything in existence. You see, I have never valued power, titles, or attention, in spite of all the wrong assumptions about me. I do not cling to those things because they are meaningless and empty traps that hold too many people in Washington. I believe in term limits and do not think Congress should be a lifelong career or an assisted living facility. My only goal and desire has ever been to hold the Republican Party accountable for the promises it makes to the American people and put America first. And I have fought against Democrats' damaging policies like the Green New Deal, wide open, deadly, unsafe border policies, and the trans agenda on children and against women. With that has brought years of non-stop, never-ending personal attacks, death threats, lawfare, ridiculous slander and lies about me that most people could never withstand even for a single day. It has been unfair and wrong, not only to me, but especially to my family, but it's been wrong to my district as well. I have too much self-respect and dignity. I love my family way too much, and I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for, only to fight and win my election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms, and in turn be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me. It's all so absurd and completely unserious. I refuse to be a battered wife, hoping it all goes away and gets better. If I am cast aside by the president and the MAGA political machine and replaced by neocons, big pharma, big tech, military-industrial war complex, foreign leaders, and the elite donor class that can never ever relate to real Americans, then many common Americans have been cast aside and replaced as well. There is no plan to save the world or a 4D chess game being played. When common American people realize and understand that the political industrial complex of both parties is ripping this country apart, that not one elected leader like me is able to stop Washington's machine from gradually destroying our country, and instead the reality is that they, common Americans, the people, possess the real power over Washington, then I'll be here by their side to rebuild it. Until then, I'm going back to the people that I love, to live my life to the fullest as I always have, and I look forward to a new path ahead. I'll be resigning from office with my last day being January 5th, 2026, and I look forward to seeing many of you again sometime in the future. May God bless you all, and may God bless America.